Anyone who stuck around with me on YouTube on either of my channels for a while will know that obscure franchises tend to be my specialty. My first successful channel was my Arthur and the Invisibles channel, The Casual Prince, which is not currently ongoing but I plan to return to once I finish university. But during my time on that channel it went from music videos and funny little edits to resurrecting an entire fan base which I now run an active Discord for. And as I eventually branched out on this channel from just making gaming videos, I've reached out into other obscure franchises that I've loved over the years, including Primeval and The Legend of Spyro, and there are many more on the way. One of these obscure franchises that I reached back into during my time off the air was the wonderful world of Dinotopia. Some of you may know it, some of you may not, and some of you might have heard whispers of it here and there, but to anyone watching, let me give you a brief refresher. Dinotopia started off as a book series written and illustrated by James Gurney, who is still alive and is still very much active in his community. Gurney's books told the story of Dinotopia, a hidden island somewhere in the ocean cut off from the outside world where humans and dinosaurs live together in a utopian society. The combination of Gurney's illustrations and the incredible world that he'd created for these books instantly captured the imaginations of dinosaur lovers and fantasy lovers alike. The first two books tell the story of Arthur and Will Dennison, a father and son washed ashore on Dinotopia during the 1860s. We're shown so many wonderful and fantastical locations within Dinotopia, such as its magnificent capital, Waterfall City, and the mysterious world beneath. Many more books followed the first two, further amplifying the world and story of Dinotopia through both the same characters in the first two books and several additional characters. While Dinotopia started out as a book series, a decade after the first book was released in 1992, Hallmark Entertainment teamed up with Disney to make a 3-part live-action miniseries set in the Dinotopian universe. The story would focus on two modern-day brothers, Karl and David Scott, who had washed ashore on Dinotopia in the early 2000s. The miniseries would focus on the two brothers adapting to life on the island and saving it from destruction when it faced a crisis. While it wasn't the miniseries specifically that first alerted me to the existence of Dinotopia, it was what got me into it specifically. The miniseries was a tremendous part of my childhood and I love it dearly, but after integrating myself into the Dinotopian community for the first time, I've discovered that it wasn't that way for everyone. Many Dinotopia fans actually view the miniseries in a very negative light due to the fact that it basically changed everything about the universe. Much of the world building and history of Dinotopia was either altered or completely erased in the miniseries in favor of what is basically an entirely new universe with only a few similarities to the original source material, which makes it something quite a bit separate rather than a faithful adaptation. For this reason, a lot of Dinotopia fans really don't like the miniseries, and the TV series that followed its events in 2003. I, on the other hand, having grown up with the miniseries and discovered the TV series several years after first watching the miniseries, view them both in very high regard. So having learnt all of this, I thought it was about time that a Dinotopia fan really stepped forward and gave the miniseries and the subsequent TV series a fair review. And so this will be the first episode of a 16-part series where I will watch, analyze, and review all 3 episodes of the miniseries and all 13 episodes of the TV series that followed. While I wasn't originally aware of the original canon, I have within the past couple of years read the first 2 books, and I'm completely aware of all of the changes that were made during the miniseries story. And while I did grow up with the miniseries, I'm not so much of a fan that I will completely ignore all of its faults and mistakes. So I think I'm probably a good fit to give these series a fair review, as I'll be picking out all of the mistakes unbiased, while still trying to show you fellow Dinotopia fans that maybe this is worth a watch. Now, obviously due to copyright reasons and, needing to make a living off of YouTube, I can't show you guys the entire thing in full. So I would heavily recommend, if you're a Dinotopia fan, or even if you aren't, going and watching both the miniseries and the TV series. Yes, it's not perfect, yes, it has its problems, but it's a fun watch whether you're a Dinotopia fan or not. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's watch Dinotopia Part 1. Waterfall City. I really do love the miniseries version better.
Follow your heart and prepare to fulfill your destiny as matriarch.
She's really out here telling her baby that she doesn't have any choice in life. You will be the matriarch! I love it how none of this will make any sense to anyone who hasn't seen this, but just bear with me, alright? The Arkenstone. I'm sorry, I know it's meant to be an epic moment, but I had to. It was the same joke Owen made when I showed this to him. So we have the first appearance of a sunstone in the miniseries. Definitely not the book version, I can tell you that for nothing.
I hate flying. This'll be a treat, David. We're gonna go island hopping. You're gonna love it, I promise.
Let's just leave him behind, Dad. He's gonna be like this all day.
And so we meet our main characters, the Scott family. We have Karl Scott, who is played by Tyron Lightso. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. We have Frank Scott, the father, who is played by Stuart Wilson. And we have David Scott, played by Wentworth Miller. Quite a, well, decently famous person to be playing him nowadays. I just want to make the point that, if nothing else, this series had a absolutely incredible soundtrack made by Trevor Jones. Like, the Dinotopia soundtrack fucking makes this. It is beautiful.
There, we're all set. Come on, Carl, fly the plane.
Okay, I don't think they ever actually say how old the brothers are, but I would not be happy if I was in this plane and Frank was just like, oh yeah, Carl, fly the plane. I mean, I know he's meant to be the favourite son and all, but come on, Frank, that won't matter when you crash into the ocean in a ball of fire.
You wake me up 20 minutes before landing. What?
Honestly, I think I'd have exactly the same response as David. Like, it's fine if Carl's flying and, like, Frank's there just to make sure he's all doing it okay. But he is actively going to sleep while his son, who presumably has no experience as a pilot, is actively flying a plane over the ocean. Honestly, we've not known these characters for 5 minutes, and David is already the most logical one.
It's alright, David. I think I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, you won't be saying that in a few minutes, trust me. Da, 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 da. Now this scene that is about to transpire right here. This is probably my favorite scene in any movie, TV series, game, anything. This scene right here. The funny thing is, I can't actually really tell you why I like this scene so much. Well, I can tell you why I like the scene so much, but I can't tell you why I value it above, you know, everything else. I'm not saying the scene is better than a lot of other stuff, like, I don't know, I guess Avatar is a pretty extreme example, but, like, I've watched Avatar and, you know, Avatar is absolutely amazing. I'm not saying that anything in this film, including this scene, is better than anything in Avatar. I just absolutely love this scene. This is a childhood favourite scene for me, and every time I watch this scene, I just get goosebumps. So let's watch it.
What is that? What? That. There, what is that?
See, from the shot before, it did look like they were flying into some sort of, like, dark clouds, or towards some dark clouds, but from the way they're responding here, it seems as though the storm literally came out of nowhere. Now, this is no regular storm, and I'll have an entire video discussing just this storm, so I'm not going to go over it too much in this video, but yeah, this ain't normal. See, from the way he says, where did that come from, it seems as though, like, you'd be able to see this From the way he says, where did that come from, it seems to be that, like, you would have been able to see a storm like this coming. So maybe in their perspective, it really did come out of nowhere. God, I love this so much. I love this scene so much. I don't know. It's so epic to me, and I don't know why.
Hang on! We gotta turn and try to outrun this thing. Get your belts on.
Dad? We're going out of control.
See, right there, that's an attractive shot of Frank. See, right there was some sort of sparks or something went wrong with the plane. And I've looked at that so many times over the years, and I've never been able to figure out what happened there. What I thought it was at first was like the controls breaking off, but it was just like it was just some sort of spark. So, and it didn't look like they were struck by lightning or anything. So, did the storm actually like shut down their plane? Did it do that? I don't know. Again, storm, other lore video, but it's interesting. Time to get out. Time to get out, guys. So Karl and David managed to get out, but Frank is having trouble, and Karl's going back to help. Come on, Frank, get out of there. The amount of screaming he was doing there, that was the dumbest possible thing to do. Jesus, fucking hold your breath, Frank. Also, I've never really thought about this before, and, you know, we have only just met the characters, basically. But it does speak a lot for the comparison between Karl and David, in that Karl actually did try to go back and help Frank. I mean, I know that just sort of seems like the thing you would do anyway. I mean, he is his father, but it sort of sets the standard for the different themes that we're going to be exploring with the two of them. Hey look, big fish! We'll see him later. Jesus Christ, poor Karl. There's never really a point in the miniseries or the TV series where he actually, I guess, talks about this moment. I don't think really either of them do. I mean, yeah, they talk about this moment in general, but the specific thing that Karl tried to help Frank and couldn't get him out, you know, that's never really brought up again. What do you mean, follow me? You're in the middle of the fucking ocean, Karl. You have no idea where the nearest island is. Or maybe they could see the shores of Dinotopia from where they are. Maybe that's entirely possible.
Karl, what are we doing? We should have stayed with the plane.
What do you mean you should have stayed with the plane? It sunk. You were in the middle of the pissing ocean. What were you gonna do? Drown?
We just left him. I tried. There was nothing I could do.
Okay, I don't know how David thinks he has any right to say that, because last time I checked, he just fucking chilled on the surface of the water while Karl was the one who tried to help him. Wow, look at how their clothes have remarkably dried, and Karl's hair is very neat and everything. Sorry, that is the most minor thing to pick up on, but this is meant to be like a full analysis and everything, so, you know, I just picked up on it. Let's carry on.
Been walking for hours and nothing. No people, no houses, not even a road to follow.
I'm sorry, did they not consider for 1 second that this may be an uninhabited island? I mean, it's not, but did that not cross their minds for like 1 second?
What the hell is that?
It's Godzilla. Boom!
Sincere apologies for any inconvenience. I have permission from the Volcanium Council to explore ancient sites. The hope of finding unused sunstones. It's all in order.
The man himself.
So, where are we exactly?
Oh, Dinotopia. Oh, you'll be the talk of the place. It's not every day we get new arrivals.
Dinotopia? Where is that?
That's a very good point, David. Where is Dinotopia? And the answer to that question, I don't actually know that, to be honest. I don't know if it's ever actually been stated, you know, like where in the world Dinotopia is supposed to be. Some sources say it's meant to be in the Pacific Ocean. Some sources say it's somewhere in the Indian Ocean. These guys are meant to be going island hopping, so it's gotta be somewhere, you know, islandy.
Well, for what it's worth, and at no extra cost, I offer you the eternal friendship of Cyrus Crab. That's me.
Cyrus Crab. Oh, one of the best characters in this entire thing. Literally, any time he appears in this, it brings a smile to my face. But yeah, Cyrus, not sure if any of you guys recognize him, played by David Thewlis. The best thing I know him from is playing Professor Lupin in the Harry Potter films, but yeah, he does a fantastic job here.
So how big is Dinotopia?
Not that big. A couple of 100 miles across.
200 miles? How come we've never heard about it before?
Well, we're a little bit cut off from the rest of the world.
See, that line right there, being cut off from the rest of the world, if I was Karl, that would immediately raise alarm bells, like, what do you mean we're cut off from the outside world? Because that, combined with the fact that no one in the outside world has seemingly heard of Dinotopia, yeah, that would ring alarm bells. Bit of a precursor to the reveal that you can't get off the island, but here we have footprint language, Saurian language. Very difficult to learn and even more tedious to write.
This is really weird. Well, no, just...
You don't think this is weird?
See, immediately that's another little difference between them. David just looking around going, you know, oh, this is fascinating, and Karl's just immediately like, yeah, this is weird.
What is that?
And so the big reveal. Yep, welcome to Dinotopia. We've got dinosaurs. Hope you enjoy your stay. But yeah, obviously we got an Ankylosaurus here. In fairness, for 2002, it's not a badly designed Ankylosaurus. I think it's a bit big and maybe a bit too muscular for an Ankylosaurus, but, you know, it was 2002.
Can't be.
It's a dinosaur.
Really? What gave you the clue? One little pet peeve I have about, I guess, dialogue in general in, like, movies and TV series and stuff, is that in situations like this, characters say stuff that no normal human being would ever say. Like, you look at any movie, TV series where, like, something unexpected happens, there'll be one character that says, it can't be. No normal person in any, even in any surprising situation, says it can't be. That's not a thing that people say. But then if people write realistic dialogue, you know, it doesn't sound very exciting. So, you know, that's why people write dialogue like this, because it's exciting. It's not necessarily realistic. I tell you what, even for 2002, the animation's not that bad.
Time to say farewell, I think. Oh! Here she is.
Took the words right out of my mouth, Cyrus. But yeah, we have the introduction of basically the third main character.
Calm down. What is it?
She really just went up to an Ankylosaur and told it to calm down. Yeah, welcome to Dinotopia. That's right, guys. This guy was taming dinosaurs before Hiccup was taming dragons. Yes, reach into my mouth. I promise you I won't snap your arm off.
Toothache.
That was amazing.
She's Dinotopian, 20th generation.
A lot of Dinotopians between her and her castaway ancestors.
Don't waste your time in the provinces. Go to Waterfall City. You just pick up your tickets over there.
Maybe we'll see you there.
Oh, you can be sure of it. I know future friends when I see them.
I want to know where Cyrus went. Like, what school he went to learn to be this creepy. Like, this isn't something that you do just on the offhand. This is a talent that he has. Just naturally creepy.
I'm not sure I trust him.
Well, you're definitely right not to do that, David. I can tell you that much.
Waterfall City. The next bus is at dawn.
Well, they've really had it rough, haven't they? They've lost their father out at sea, washed up on an entirely unfamiliar island, full of dinosaurs, and then when they go to catch a bus, the ticket desk is closed.
How can a place like this really exist without everybody knowing about it?
Well, it's all thanks to that mysterious storm outside the island, David. Ain't nothing getting past that.
Get search parties out. Call home.
Do you really think some place called Waterfall City is gonna have telephones?
I mean, David makes a very valid point here. Of all the things they've seen, do they really expect that these people are going to have telephones?
Nobody's forgetting about Dad. It's just that there's nothing we can do right now. Not until we understand this place.
No, I don't want to understand this place. I want to get home.
Well, unfortunately, Karl, that is not going to be an option. Ever. Well...
Right now, we sleep, okay? Then tomorrow, the city. We do whatever it takes to find someone in charge.
It's only just occurred to me, are they just chilling on someone's fucking roof? Like, how did they get up here? They're literally just chilling on someone's roof.
Excuse me. Hi. My name's Karl. This is my brother Davey.
It's David. Hi.
Hello. My name's Marion.
So we finally get introduced to Marion, the titular third character. Now, I don't know whether I included the particular clip of the intro which included the old woman referencing her granddaughter as Marion, but yes, Marion is the granddaughter of the woman we saw at the start.
When you arrive in Waterfall City, everything will be explained just as soon as you register.
Register? We don't want to register for anything. We just want to get home.
I imagine that's so.
I tell you what, out of everything that's happened thus far, they've done a decent job of not directly addressing the fact that you can't get off Dinotopia. Like, everyone's been decently vague. Apart from Cyrus, who literally flat out said, you know, we're cut off from the outside world, and these two idiots didn't even bother to raise any questions about that.
This is the bus?
David, you're on an island called Dinotopia with dinosaurs, and you're honestly surprised that the bus is a dinosaur? What were you expecting? Were you expecting to be like a fully operational mechanical bus?
What's that for?
Armor. That's to stop you from getting killed.
I love that line so much. It's just like, it's a fair question considering their circumstance, but Marion's just like, yeah, that's to stop him from getting killed. Just like, you know, obviously, you know, it's armor. It's just more so than, yeah, why does he need to wear armor?
The bus is secure. We will be leaving in 5 minutes. Waterfall City, direct.
Can I just say, like, obviously, this was made in 2002. It's very dated, given, like, what we have now. But I just love the nostalgic feel of watching old stuff like this. Like, just the cold, the natural cold air that you saw on the guy's breath just then. People nowadays would probably try to do that with CGI. It's just like, it just feels so natural and so good.
He won't eat us, will he?
Come on, Karl, did you not watch Jurassic Park? He's clearly not a dinosaur nerd, but, you know, like, even most people would look at a Brachiosaurus and know that it's a herbivore. Okay, by modern standards, and to be honest, even by 2002 standards, I'd say, that is a horrifically inaccurate Parasaurolophus. Why was David standing up just then? That was wildly unsafe.
To get to Waterfall City, we have to cross the Rainy Basin. It's the domain of the carnivores.
Because of course it is.
The carnivores aren't evil. They're just hungry by nature.
With how they're portrayed in both the miniseries and the TV series, not evil, hungry by nature is definitely not the phrase that I would use to describe them.
Weapons are enemies, even to their owners. Third code of Dinotopia.
Wait a minute. You have a law that says you can't defend yourself?
There are ways to defend yourself without using weapons.
Well, yeah, I mean, but weapons are the most efficient way.
And besides, it's only 1 in 5 convoys that are attacked.
How can she say that so casually? Oh yeah, it's only 1 in 5 convoys that are ruthlessly attacked and murdered by carnivores.
Now just complete this hideous picture for us. Exactly what kind of dinosaurs are we likely to encounter?
Tyrannosaurus Rex, of course.
Because why would it be anything else? No, I'm not saying that's a nitpick, obviously. Tyrannosaurs do exist on Dinotopia. They're one of the primary carnivorous species. The amount of dinosaur species in Dinotopia is greatly reduced in the miniseries, but obviously that's just due to, you know, production. You know, you can't expect them to model like 100 different dinosaurs. But now that I actually think about it, Tyrannosaurus is actually the only carnivorous dinosaur on the miniseries version of Dinotopia. There are literally no others. There are other carnivores, but they're not dinosaurs. Specifically carnivorous dinosaurs, T-Rex are the only ones. The book version of Dinotopia has a lot more.
What is it?
Tyrannosaurus.
Oh yeah, this is a good idea. The Brachiosaurs have stopped outside a path of completely destroyed trees that was clearly done by Tyrannosaurs. Let's follow the path.
And the tracks. There are hundreds of them.
I mean, there aren't hundreds of them. Let's be real. If there were hundreds of them, the entire forest would be destroyed. There are not hundreds of them.
Tyrannosaurs never hunt in herds.
These ones did.
Well, tyrannosaurs hunt in packs, but they don't hunt in herds. Okay, this is sort of the beginning of a little thing that keeps getting mentioned. It's about a herd of tyrannosaurs, like an actual herd. It's mentioned through all 3 parts of the miniseries, but this first part is the only time we see T-Rexes. And when we do see them, it's literally like 4. This was literally not a herd. This was just straight up a regular pack. They're so over-dramatizing this.
There's a small outpost at the edge of the forest. We've got to make sure they're safe.
I mean, you don't have to. You're following a path made by T-Rexes. Just turn around and keep going. Survival of all or none. Second code of Dinotopia. I don't think the people at the outpost are alright somehow.
What's happened here? Where is everybody?
Where do you think, Marion? In the fucking stomachs of the T-Rex? The way this little bit was filmed always freaked me out a bit as a kid. I thought like a raptor was gonna like jump out from behind one of the pillars and jump scare me. But there are no raptors in this miniseries, unfortunately. I'm not actually entirely sure if there are any raptors on Dinotopia. Oh no, apparently Deinonychus do live on Dinotopia. Alright then. So basically there are Jurassic Park raptors on Dinotopia. That's comforting.
What is it?
The Sunstone has failed.
What's a sunstone?
It's our source of power. It keeps the outposts and settlements safe. This one's dead.
And so we have a number of introductions. First of all, we have the actual purpose of sunstones in the miniseries. And second, we have the concept of them dying. Now, this seems a good point to raise one of the biggest changes that the miniseries made to Dinotopian lore, which was the Sunstones, and by extension, actually, the Carnivores. In the miniseries, Sunstones are magical stones which, for some reason, have the power to repel carnivores. That's why they're kept in the rainy basin, away from all the major cities and settlements. In the books, none of that is true. In the books, basically, Sunstones are power sources that are fueled by the light of the sun, but they don't repel carnivores. That is entirely something that the miniseries came up with. And because they're not magical in the books, they don't die, they just sort of run out of power. But in the miniseries, obviously, a sunstone seemingly can die and, you know, stops protecting outposts from carnivores and such, which is what's happened here. Okay, you could literally hear a Tyrannosaur in the background there, I'm just saying. The sound design in general for this series is pretty good, but I feel like this scene in particular, they made a bunch of weird choices. Like, you could literally hear a T-Rex growling in the background. And at this point, there aren't even any T-Rexes around. They just threw that in for the shits and giggles.
The next outpost is more than 5 hours away. The Brax will never carry us through the storm.
Then we'll have to find shelter here.
Because that seems like a fantastic idea.
Would you like something to eat?
That'd be great.
Yeah, I'm starving. Any chance of a steak? Burger or some chicken?
We eat only fruit and vegetables in Dinotopia.
And another harsh reveal about the concept of living in Dinotopia, they don't eat meat. Although, like a lot of things, the miniseries does overplay this a little bit, in that in the actual books they do eat fish, which is, you know, I guess it's not exactly the same as meat, but it, you know, it's still meat. In the miniseries they eat, like, exclusively fruit and veg.
And you? Do you eat meat as well?
Me? No, I'm a very strict vegetarian.
And we later learn in the TV series that was all bullshit. I've only known her a couple of hours and David's already trying to get one up on Karl, trying to get into Marion's pants.
Why, thank you.
Oh, it's bitter.
You're supposed to peel it first.
Yeah, Karl, you fucking idiot. I'm going to assume that's supposed to be some sort of Dinotopian fruit, but that is very clearly a dragon fruit.
I've never spent this much time alone with him before.
You're brothers, but you don't live together.
No, we hardly see each other at all. We have different mothers.
So this is... Oh, I paused on a lightning strike. This is a bit of exposition about the sort of family dynamic between David and Karl, in that they had different mothers, but the same father. Frank, he was a bit of a... Bit of a social spirit.
We just don't have anything in common, so we're not exactly best friends.
You're not best friends yet, David, but I'd say over the course of both this and the TV series, you get to that point.
Did you hear that?
They're harmless. Creatures of the rainy basin.
Well, something's making them panic.
Something's making me panic.
I used to quote that all the time. I love that quote.
No, nothing but jungle out there.
Did you see that? Did you see that in the window?
Well, you know, I thought...
You thought a T-Rex was coming to get you.
And why on earth would you have any reason to think that? Now, I would like to make the point that there is no physical way that a T-Rex would be able to do that, because that implies that the T-Rex is... For it to be able to push its foot down through the ceiling and then just lift it all the way back up, we're not talking a T-Rex, we're just talking like mini Godzilla. And funny, I did mention Godzilla earlier. Wait a minute. Okay, I'll give him that. That's a pretty cool shot. It's the classic horror situation of a monster, like, peeking its head just, like, through cracks or whatever, but it's pretty cool. See, look, there's just, like, 4 of them there. This isn't a fucking herd. It's barely a pack. And so we get a full reveal of the Dinotopian T-Rex. People hate on the CGI, but again, you gotta remember it's 2002. It doesn't look that bad. And as for general design, I think, surprisingly, apart from possible lack of feathers, it's actually not a bad T-Rex design. The ones in the miniseries, obviously, they tweak the design a little bit in the TV series and makes it a bit unrealistic. But the way they look, the way they move in the miniseries is actually pretty realistic, because we know sort of now that Tyrannosaurs couldn't run very fast, so, you know, they could run about the same speed as everyone else, and they're quite bulky as well. They're quite well muscled and stuff. Yeah, so it's not a bad T-Rex design, in all honesty. Also, can I just say, I love the sound design for the Rexes. I love the roars they make. It's a sound effect that I've heard played in other films, so I assume it must be, you know, one of those sort of widely used creature sound effects that a bunch of films from this era tended to use. Also, this is a pretty good screenshot. Hell yeah, the Skyback Riders are here.
I am Unu, Squadron Leader, Skyback's Corps.
Unu, one absolute legend, played by Colin Salmon. I don't think I've seen him in anything else.
What happened to everybody here?
We rescued the rest of the staff earlier. We flew them out before the storms came in. But 3 people and their Triceratops patrol are still missing.
Oh, okay, so the people at the outpost weren't in the T-Rex's stomach. It's also interesting, he mentioned Triceratops there. There are no Triceratops in the miniseries at all. A relative of Triceratops is here, but there's literally no Triceratops seen in this entire thing. Not in the miniseries or the TV series.
That T-Rex almost killed us back there.
Our lives are no more precious than that of the Tyrannosaurus.
I mean, in practice, it's alright saying that, but I mean, you're not gonna grieve as much for a random dead T-Rex as if your own mother gets eaten by one, are you?
We're human beings, and that means we're at the top of the food chain.
Carl, you're only at the top of the food chain where there are no giant man-eating lizards around, and unfortunately on Dinotopia there's quite a few of them.
Welcome to Waterfall City.
The big reveal! God, it's beautiful. I know what I said at the start of the video, but I'm honestly not sure whether I prefer the miniseries version or the book version of Waterfall City. They both have their merits. Although one thing this version of Waterfall City has over the book version, those of you who have read the books, you ever noticed how the book version of Waterfall City doesn't have a land-based entrance? Doesn't that mean that all the dinosaurs on there, like all the land-dwelling ones, are trapped?
It's like something out of a fairy tale.
So we can see quite a few of Dinotopia's resident dinosaurs here. Of course, we have the Brachiosaurus. Over here, we have a Stegosaurus. We have a Pastrolophus here, even though it's horrifically inaccurate. We have a Chasmosaurus here. A couple of Stenonychosaurus over here.
America isn't joined to Europe.
At the beginning of the Triassic period, all the continents were joined together in one huge supercontinent called Pangaea.
Surprised you didn't know that, David.
Yeah, David, you fucking idiot. Now, in fairness, in all the times he'd been butting in, he kind of did deserve that one.
Why are they all looking at us?
There haven't been newcomers in many years. You're celebrities.
See, washing up on Dinotopia isn't all bad. You get instant celebrity status. In our world, if you want to do that, then you gotta shit on your husband's bed or cheat in Minecraft. God, I so love the look of Waterfall City. I really, really do. I don't think I've really ever paid attention to all the backgrounds of this series, but they really are so well done. Even if you can tell, obviously, that it's, you know, green screens and stuff, and obviously it's not actual sets. They didn't build all of this, they only built a bit of it. But it still looks so good. I don't think I've ever realised that Dinotopia has a flag. Let me go back and look at that a second. Huh. Looks like something you'd see in Star Wars. Does Dinotopia actually have a flag in the books? Oh, apparently there are some flags in Dinotopia. I don't think that one's one of them.
Who's that guy? Looks like a clown with all those robes on.
Hello, Father.
Marion.
Hope Marion didn't hear Carl's comment about her dad. So here we have Waldo Seville, the mayor of Waterfall City, and Marion's father, played by Jim Carter, who I believe most people know from Downton Abbey.
Recorded on this scroll, you can see the names of those shipwrecked souls whom destiny has delivered to our land.
So presumably somewhere on this scroll should be the names of Arthur and Will Dennison, but I've looked at it before and their names are not on there. Although I think that's more to do with the fact that the sort of time in which those two arrived on this list is actually off screen. It's not that their names are just not on there. Their names probably are on there, they just weren't shown. A lot of dinosaurs in this Senate, as you can see. Who says dinosaurs can't do politics?
Be given the chance to become full Dinotopian citizens and to find your saurian life partner.
Saurian? You mean one of those scalies?
So it seems that the term scaly is actually, I guess the easiest way of putting it is a bit of a racist term on Dinotopia, but it's kind of funny considering what scaly actually means in our modern day society.
We have to get off this island.
I'm afraid that's impossible.
And so we finally get the big reveal. You can't leave Dinotopia thanks to that mysterious storm out in the ocean.
How do you know no one's ever made it?
Had you ever heard of Dinotopia before you arrived?
No.
Exactly.
Okay, well that's not really a fair judgment to make just based on the fact that no one in the outside world, like, Dinotopia isn't common knowledge in the outside world. How do you know that one guy didn't make it out? Because if he did, he'd just be a random lunatic. Can you imagine someone showing up who'd been missing possibly for years, saying that there's an island full of dinosaurs? They'd just chop it up to insanity, wouldn't they? They wouldn't believe him.
What have been the principal changes in your society since then? What? Oh, yes. Are you still at war with the Germans?
No, we won that one.
Oh, well done.
I love that little thing about how they're questioning about World War II. But that particular moment brings up a number of things, such as the fact that dinosaurs can speak in some sort of language that humans have learned to understand. And number two, and I've never really thought about this before, but the way he says, "Are you still at war with the Germans?" that makes it sound like he's just assuming that they're British, or, you know, a country that was at war with Germany during World War II. Like, what if they were Germans? What would they have said? Oh, we're German and we lost. And I guess you could also argue the point that, you know, it wasn't the entirety of Germany, it was a group of people that were German, but You know, if it was if the last person who told them about World War II was from 1944, they wouldn't say that, you know, they would just say the Germans.
There was the war in Vietnam, and Watergate, the Gulf War, the Cold War, and that's when they knocked down the Berlin Wall.
It must not fill Dinotopians with a lot of confidence hearing all of the wars that have been going on in the outside world. We basically went out of one war and went into another for a while.
Apollo 11, that's when Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. Technology is very advanced these days. We all have mobile phones and DVDs.
I'm sorry, I think we've all got a little confused. I thought you said that someone walked on the moon.
And after that, everyone basically just stopped paying attention. Like, I feel like this whole scene is just done really weird. Like, I'd feel like if someone from the outside world came in and said, you know, someone walked on the moon, I feel like people would be like, I mean, I know they wouldn't believe it at first, but I feel like David would be like, no, that did actually happen. You know, we've gotten more advanced since 1944.
The most significant event in my history is falling out of the sky and watching my father swept away to drown.
Wow, way to kill the mood, Karl.
I don't understand how a place this big hasn't been found before.
David, I've got 2 words for you, mate. Weird storm. You know, the one you actually flew through, like, 2 days ago.
Are there no mysteries left out there where you came from?
Well, no. There's a lot of things we don't know about in our world.
Well, then this is just another one.
You know, there's a bit of a difference between some of the mysteries that are in our world and an entire island full of fucking dinosaurs with magical stones.
What's he doing?
Dinosaurs hate turning pages. They do their best thinking when their feet are moving.
A treadmill that turns pages while you read. Honestly, I wouldn't be against having these sort of things in our world, to be perfectly honest.
Gosh, I'm sorry.
No. It's perfectly all right. It was completely my fault.
This dinosaur can talk.
Ah, yes. Zippo! You know, I've not delved into a lot of people's opinions on the miniseries, but I think I can safely say that a lot of people probably do not like Zippo. And of course, this is the sort of first reveal of a dinosaur that can speak English. Feel however you want about that, I guess. So Zippo is a Stenonychosaurus, which is actually a real dinosaur, but doesn't look anything like that in real life. Real life Stenonychosaurus was about 1/3 that size and was a member of the Troodon family, which is very closely related to raptors.
Very few learn to speak English properly, if that's what you mean.
How exciting to meet you. You know, I just love mammals.
The way Zippo said that just made me think of something. Can you imagine what would happen if modern day furries found their way to Dinotopia? It'd be like a dreamland for them. I'm just sat here trying to figure out what the hell they're eating. It seems that they've got some octopus tentacles in there, so the comment I made about them only eating fruit and veg in the miniseries seems to not be applicable. But in fairness, they did just say fruit and veg, they didn't say fish. As for the other stuff, I have no idea what that's meant to be. Just assorted herbs, I guess.
So, do you have a human partner?
I was partner to Sylvie of the hatchery, but I've never sought another after my soulmate's death.
I believe this is actually our first named mention of a character from the books, because despite how much the miniseries changes about the books, it actually does make reference to a lot of book characters. Sylvia was actually a good friend of Will Dennison, Arthur Dennison's son. She was a Skyback rider in the books. It seems that in the miniseries continuity, she was either never a Skyback rider and just stuck around the hatchery, or after she retired from being a Skyback rider in old age, I guess, she took it upon herself to tend to a hatchery.
Wow, how'd you square a babe like that?
God almighty, Karl, what the fuck, man? That's literally the same as having dinner with an old man. He's just told you about his dead wife, and you looking at a picture of her and going, wow, she's hot.
Father, this isn't the first time the Sunstones failed, and I've never seen tyrannosaurs running in herds.
This is sort of the first inkling we get that Waldo maybe isn't a very competent mayor. Like, he's very obsessed with food, he always puts off all the serious issues. We very much see that going forward, mainly in episode 3. But I gotta tell you, TV series Waldo is basically a completely different character. And to be honest, that's the case for actually quite a few characters in this.
And all that talk about partners.
Doesn't that seem a little creepy? I mean, we're talking about lizards here.
Oh, Karl, if only you could have stuck around the outside world a little bit longer, you'd see that, yeah, things just keep getting weirder out here.
This is some kind of utopia where everyone lives in harmony.
Yeah, well, there's no way I'm gonna ever be walking around with a lizard girlfriend.
Again, 2023, furries exist, it's really not that far-fetched.
Why do you always turn against everything before we've even started?
What's the point when we're going home anyway?
Oh? And how are we going to do that? I mean, you saw what the Razor Reef did to our plane, right?
I mean, David's got a completely valid point. If that's what the storm did to their plane, obviously they're not going to find another plane on Dinotopia, so they'd have to do it in a boat, and can you imagine how worse that'd be? In fact, that's something that's dealt with in the TV series, what happens when you try to cross the storm in a boat. But this actually brings up an interesting point that I want to cover. David mentions the Razor Reef, and basically, the Razor Reef is a series of reefs around Dinotopia, which is supposedly, in the books at least, the main thing that prohibits travel in and out of Dinotopia. You try to sail over the reef, and the reef chops up your boat, basically. But in the miniseries continuity, the reef has never been seen as an issue. It's always the storm, and the storm is not the Razor Reef. They are two separate things. I didn't know that at first, but they are completely separate. In the books, the storm is more of just a bunch of winds and tide currents that surround the island, but in the miniseries, it's not a natural storm, and that is briefly alluded to in the TV series. We'll get there eventually. Again, I don't want to talk about the storm a lot, but it's just something I should mention in passing.
Well, I think I know what Dad would say. No, he'd say this was a great adventure. We should be exploring and seeing things that no one's ever seen before.
If the TV series is anything to go by, that is absolutely not what he would say, David.
Maybe we should stay, just for a little while. See what life is like here.
Maybe that's because you don't have a life back home. Well, I do. And I want it back.
Someone get a fire extinguisher. Karl just fucking set the man on fire. Why'd you have to do that to him, Karl?
Before your grandmother, Oriana, died, she gave me this.
Now, finally, we get the identity of Marion's grandmother, and it's none other than an actual character from the books, and quite an important one at that. Oriana was a very close friend of Arthur Dennison in the books, and when I say close friend, I mean that it's implied at the end of the second book that the two of them had some sort of romantic relationship at some point in the future.
A sunstone.
This was her greatest treasure. The explorer Arthur Dennison found it and gave it to her at least 100 years ago.
And so we get our first named mention of Arthur Dennison, and the reiteration that Arthur and Oriana actually knew each other in the miniseries continuity as well, actually made me think of something. And I've never thought about this before, mainly due to two factors. One, a lack of knowledge of the books, and two, never going this detailed into analysing the miniseries before. But as it's implied in the second book that Oriana and Arthur had some sort of romantic relationship going forward, and in the miniseries continuity it's been confirmed that they knew each other, doesn't that imply that Arthur Dennison is Marion's grandfather? Because if so, that's a pretty big deal. And it's actually something I'll be picking up on in episode 2.
She's very nice to look at, isn't she?
Cyrus! The grand return.
Oh, Karl, hope you don't mind me saying, but a brother of yours. He's a bit of an odd sort, isn't he?
Oh, we're only half brothers.
Now, it's pretty obvious to see, but this is sort of where Cyrus begins to manipulate Karl and turns him further against Dinotopia. Obviously, from what we've seen of Cyrus's character thus far, he's not a big fan of Dinotopia in general, and there is sort of a reason for that, which we'll get into in part 3, but he sees that Karl is having a lot of trouble adjusting to Dinotopian life. He sees that he's headstrong and young and naive, and he knows that if he starts, you know, what he's doing here, obviously, he's starting to turn him against David, and, you know, David was sort of already doing that by wanting to stay in Dinotopia.
Why don't you call on me at the shop sometime? whenever you get tired of the scalies trying to change you.
Again, even further manipulation. He's separating him from his brother, who wants to stay in Dinotopia, and he's saying, you know, if you ever need, you need someone to talk to, Karl, who doesn't like Dinotopia, just like you do, I'm here. Cyrus, you're a snaky man.
Breathe deep, David and Karl.
Seek peace.
No way. I'm not staying here. This school's for little children.
Then you should fit right in, Karl.
Then you should be right at home.
See, David took the words right out of my mouth.
Oh, no, well, I thought you'd be delighted. The visiting tutor in this class is your traveling companion, Marion.
Because, you know, of course it is.
I will now read to you all the codes of Dinotopia.
For copyright reasons, I probably can't give you a long enough clip where Marion tells you all of the codes of Dinotopia, so I would highly suggest you go and just look it up.
Do one thing. Karl, that is unnecessary destruction of public property. And that is not how Stegosauruses reproduce.
Karl looks like he's supposed to be older than I am, and he's drawing two Stegosaurus fucking? He's got the mental age of a 9-year-old. Also, am I the only one worried about the fact that all of the children laughed when Marion talked about Stegosaurus reproducing? Like, they shouldn't even know what that means.
Ancient legend tells how it was brought up from the world beneath, tens of thousands of years ago.
And so we get our first mention of the world beneath. That's going to become very relevant in episode 3.
Rule 4, give more, take less.
Very good.
Look at this fucking kid, he's so happy with himself. Ah, yes, I can read.
You can see down near the bottom here that the very last code is missing. Nobody knows what the 11th code is. Would anyone like to guess what the 11th code might be?
Find a way out of here?
So yeah, the 11th code missing is something that is present in the books as well, but funnily enough, the 11th code is actually different in the books than it is in the miniseries. We'll find out what the actual 11th code is in part 3, but as Marion just said, the first 3 letters in the miniseries are F-I-N. In the books, it's actually D-O-N. There are a lot of jokes made in the book about the 11th code and what it might be. One of the best ones being that the 11th code is don't pee in the bath.
Yeah, I have to go to the bathroom. Do I need a pass?
No, but tonight's homework will be on the codes.
Homework? Forget it.
I gotta be honest, if I went to Dinotopia after living through 12 years of school, 2 years of college, and 3 years of university, and someone came up to me and said that I had to do school all over again, I'd probably be pretty pissed too. Although I'd probably enjoy it a bit more because, you know, I'd be living in Dinotopia. Let me know down in the comments, I'm curious, would you be alright with living in Dinotopia? There are definitely a lot of drawbacks, obviously. I mean, I can't imagine being without all the technology that I've grown up with, not to mention leaving my family and friends behind, but there'd definitely be some pros. I mean, there are definitely worse places to get marooned and spend the rest of your life. Let me know down in the comments.
That's not how he reads scrolls.
No, Zippo, it's a game.
A game? Oh, can I play?
Ah yes, Karl and Zippo playing table tennis. One of the best moments of the entire miniseries, I gotta be honest with you. The characters bringing outside traditions to Dinotopia is definitely one of the best parts of both the miniseries and the TV series. It's a lot more prevalent in the TV series.
Okay, so you're clear about what happens when I hit the ball over the net.
I hit it back.
You've got no questions about the rules?
Nope.
Now, I'm all for playing table tennis with a dinosaur, but is it not a bit disrespectful to do it in a library? Like, it's a particularly noisy activity. Then again, I guess it's Karl we're dealing with here.
Hey. Oh, dear.
2-0. Try again, Zippo.
I don't know what it is about Karl and Zippo playing table tennis that's so funny. It's not even funny, it's just cool to watch, to be honest.
You seem pretty sure what you're doing.
My mother's a matriarch. It's my destiny.
Is that what you want?
How can you want anything other than your destiny? You do ask the strangest things.
Well, I know it's the sort of Dinotopian way of thinking, but it's not a silly question. I guess it just seems a silly question because of the way of Dinotopian life. But you've always got a choice about what you do with your life. I tell you what, this is absolutely not how Marion behaves in the TV series. I can tell you that for nothing.
Here we go.
Very good. Thanks.
Oh, that's it?
That's it.
It's such a simple scene. I don't know why I love it so much, but it's just a cool scene.
There's 361. Come on, David, I'll race you.
Okay, that tower looks way taller than it's supposed to be from the outside. Also, from the outside, isn't it supposed to be like a cuboid tower? Why is the interior circular? And there it is, the Prime Sunstone. Greatest sunstone in Dinotopia. Apart from the Ruby Sunstone, but that's not even canon to the miniseries.
Are you alright?
This is my asthma idea. I suppose they sell inhalers in Waterfall City.
You know, that offhanded comment actually brings up a very good point. What if someone with a serious medical condition ended up on Dinotopia? Like, they needed something specific, like a certain type of medication, or in David's case, inhalers for asthma. Like, wouldn't they just, like, die? Because Dinotopia doesn't have that shit. It doesn't have advanced medical procedures. It just has, you know, herbs and shit.
This is fantastic.
Quite a view, huh?
You don't have cities like this where you come from?
Yeah, I fucking wish, Marion. All of our cities are boring.
This is what powers the whole of Dinotopia. It's the most powerful sunstone ever found. It's almost flawless.
When they're referring to the Prime Sunstone and Marion's Sunstone that she got from her grandmother, they always keep using the phrase almost flawless. It's almost perfect. It makes you wonder what would a perfect sunstone be? Maybe that's what the Ruby Sunstone is, but again, not canon.
What are they doing?
Every evening, the Prime Sunstone regenerates all the other sunstones across Dinotopia.
Well, clearly it hasn't been doing a very good job of that, considering what happened at the outpost. See, look, the tower's square. Why was it circular inside? But you gotta admit, that's a pretty beautiful shot. I know it's probably just like a record player or something, because I imagine that that's like not beyond the technology of Dinotopia. But now I'm just imagining there's just a guy in the back of Zippo's house like do 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 just playing the piano.
What are you reading?
The Care and Teaching of Humans.
I'm not sure what to think about that book, to be honest. On the surface, it just seems wildly racist, but I suppose it's just, you know, dinosaurs writing about humans to help other dinosaurs learn about humans. I mean, it's just an intelligent species writing about another intelligent species. I guess it'd be no different about us writing books to learn about aliens if we ever met them.
Why are you so negative about everything? You know, this is always what happens with you. You're stuck, and for the first time in your life, no one's going to bail you out.
See, this is another one of those scenes that's very important in just understanding them as characters. Karl is obviously the very arrogant one, he's very naive, and you can tell that he's not had an easy life per se, but like he's never had any real consequences put onto him. It also ties into the whole thing that David and Karl have different mothers, so maybe David's mother was, I guess, a better mother, and maybe Karl's mother just wasn't very authoritative with him. And obviously David, he's more reserved, but he's not flawless. Like, we've seen, like, throughout the entire episode thus far, like, him trying to one-up Karl because he can, because he likes that power and he's never had it before.
I can't believe I'm stuck here with you.
Well, it wasn't me who was flying the plane.
Oh, you shouldn't have said that, David.
What do you mean? Do you blame me for what happened to you?
Let go of me! Let go of me!
If you ever say that again, I'll kill you, David. I swear I will.
Okay, killing him might be a bit of an over-exaggeration, Karl, but in fairness to him, David really did deserve that. Because another thing that we've sort of slowly learned over time is the relationship that the two of them had with Frank, their father, and it's blatantly clear that Karl was the favourite, and Karl had a much closer relationship to Frank than David did. And Karl was clearly, like, internalizing the grief of presumably having lost his father, and then David comes out here, who didn't even try to help him in the storm, by the way, and says that it's his fault that his dad's dead. Like, how the fuck do you think he's gonna react? Again, it's this whole thing of David enjoying this newfound power that he has over Karl, but he really took it too far then.
Now, Carl, come in, come in.
Cyrus Crab. Cyrus Crab.
What is this?
Oh, that's Ogthar. If you believe the legend, he ruled over a mythical place called the world beneath.
Ogthar is one of the most convoluted things over multiple different versions of Dinotopia. The general gist of Ogthar is that he's supposed to be half man, half dinosaur. In the miniseries, that's supposed to be symbolic in that he was like a god to unite humans and dinosaurs. In the books, he was actually half man, half dinosaur, and he was part of a species. Hold on. This is my copy of The World Beneath, the second Dinotopia book. Give me a sec. Where is it? I know it's in here somewhere. Here we go. In actual Dinotopian book canon, Ogthar was half human, half ceratopsian, which is the family of dinosaurs that Triceratops belongs to, and he was a part of a race of creatures called, and I'm not making this up, Anthroceratops. He was a genuine living scaly before scalies were even a thing in our modern day culture. That is wild. And I can't really talk about Ogthar without briefly mentioning his appearance in the animated film Quest for the Ruby Sunstone, and let's be honest, in that he's not a deity or a mythical god or an Anthroceratops, he's just a lunatic. I might actually review Quest for the Ruby Sunstone after I've finished the TV series. Let me know if that's something you guys would want.
I want to get off this island.
They certainly want you to believe that it's impossible. They don't want the rest of the world knowing about their little paradise.
Can I get off this island?
Now, this is the beginning of one of the most inconsistent and confusing parts of the entire miniseries. Does Crab know a way off the island? Now, in the books, getting off Dinotopia is a bit of a confusing thing. It's actually shown to be possible in several different ways in the books. I believe in one of the last books, there's actually a land bridge that connects Dinotopia to the outside world, but I've not read all of the books, so I can't really comment fully on that. But in the miniseries, it seems, it is seemingly impossible to leave Dinotopia because of the storm. But in the miniseries, there's this weird little subplot that Karl and Cyrus have, where Cyrus keeps telling Karl that he has a way off the island. And as you'll see as we go through the episodes, it is so inconsistent and confusing, and it never actually goes anywhere.
There's only one more thing I need to buy my own ticket out of here, but it's the captain's log, or the Rebecca's Folly.
Well, where's this captain's log?
In the archives of the ancient library. But the only one who's got the keys is that scaly they're stuck here with.
Congratulations, Karl, you've not known Cyrus a week, and he's already convinced you to commit a crime.
So why don't you get it?
They'd never let me near that library, on account of an incident to do with one of my relatives. Small fire a long time ago.
Now, as far as I know, that's not something that happened in canon, and you may be wondering why I'm saying that when we're talking about Cyrus and his ancestors, and, you know, he's a character from the miniseries. Well, if you've read the books, but this is your first time having a look at the miniseries, then you may recognize and probably will have figured out who Cyrus is related to. But that'll more come up in episode 3. But as far as I know, that's not something that happened in canon, and I don't think it's actually ever expanded upon in any of the episodes. But yeah, that's something that'll more come up in the 3rd episode.
Just another example of scaly persecution.
See, once again, he's driving a wedge between Karl and Dinotopia. He's trying to convince him the whole place is rotten.
They haven't done anything to me.
This is what they did to me. I was exploring a sacred temple when one of the ugly buggers took a great big chunk out of my leg. That's what they do when they don't agree with you. Think about that.
Now, I mentioned this earlier, but on the miniseries version of Dinotopia, there are seemingly only 4 carnivores. And T-Rex is the only carnivorous dinosaur. And it seems the way that Cyrus described this, in that it wasn't that something completely bit off his leg, it was that it took a chunk out of his leg that made his leg unusable. And somehow I don't see something as massive as a T-Rex taking a tiny chunk out of someone's leg, so it'd have to be something else. And I'm pretty sure that something else is something we're actually going to encounter later on in this same episode.
It's an invitation from Marion.
great. What for? Hello?
Can't you read it?
You got a big mouth. Anyone ever tell you that?
Considering this is supposedly the first proper interaction they've had since Karl threatened to kill him, I'm honestly surprised that he expects anything less.
The theme this year is the world beneath.
So, the world beneath that really exists?
According to legend, it was the place where the Sunstones were originally found.
So this is the Sunstone Parade. It was mentioned by Waldo earlier in the episode, and he asked Marion to lead it. The reason I'm telling you this is because that's probably a clip that I wasn't able to include due to copyright. Oh, I love my job.
Where's Karl?
Karl's about to commit a crime.
Long ago, a terrible darkness struck the earth. Our ancestors sought refuge in caves deep below the earth, where they found food and shelter and magical stones which brought light.
So this is telling the story of the world beneath, but as we will learn later on, what they're actually referencing here is the KT event. And if you don't know what I mean by that, that is the event where the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs struck the Earth. Yeah, this doesn't make any sense at all, but I'm not gonna explain it here. I'll explain it in episode 3.
Higher she climbed in the darkness, not knowing that this was night.
Guess who? There she is. Good old Marion. You know, I've learned that so many people don't like the idea of the Sunstones in this miniseries, but I love the concept of them being magical stones, and I love it. I really do.
Centuries passed, and a great civilization evolved.
No, this just isn't how it happened. This just is not how it happened, Waldo. You're telling these people lies.
Our ancestors followed her from the world beneath, and they brought with them the magical stones, and they built Dinotopia.
That's not what happened, Waldo. You are telling them lies.
The world beneath was sealed. The great ruler Ogthar decreed that it should remain a sacred place, undisturbed forevermore.
I tell you what, Waldo actually kind of looks a bit like a Time Lord in this outfit. But the way he said that just then, that seemingly sounds like Ogthar was actually like a real person. But given that everything he said before that was wrong, I'm not gonna listen to it. But the world beneath being sealed and to be undisturbed forevermore is going to be quite an important part of episode 3, so, you know, pay attention to that, I guess. The kids are acting like they've never seen a sunstone before. They're literally the lamps in your homes.
If you can't bear school, I'll spend an hour a day teaching you personally.
Well, you can tell that Karl's going to say yes to that offer.
Your graduation question is, how are we to live? You have an hour to answer in any way you wish.
Can you imagine if this was an actual, like, final exam in schools in the outside world? Instead of having to write about what the writer of Macbeth was feeling when he wrote about Macbeth's wife killing herself, you had to answer a philosophical question in your own words. To be honest, most of my class probably wouldn't do much better because most of the people in my high school were complete morons. I've always found it really neat that the way they write in Saurian is through the little stamps, but I gotta tell you, that would be so hard to read. Let me quickly pull up the footprint alphabet for you guys. It's just a combination of different footprints next to each other and above each other and stuff like that. Unless you wrote really clearly, you'd be unable to tell the difference between an A and an F.
I can't bring myself to use the word. A book has been stolen.
Oh, really?
Did they add in a gulp sound effect for Karl? I've never noticed that before. That was entirely unnecessary. See, couldn't he have just borrowed the book? Do they not allow that in Dinotopia? Okay, there's no way that Karl had time to write anything That timer had a few seconds left on it at best. Little known fact about me, I don't know why I thought of this, probably due to the flashbacks of having to do exams in school. I'm actually on the dyslexic spectrum, believe it or not. The way it works for me specifically is that I can read perfectly fine, I could read words perfectly, it's just that processing the words takes a bit longer for me. Like, I sort of have to read them again sometimes. I was tested for it for school, and I was actually allowed extra time in my exams because of it. So yeah, that's a little tidbit about the Casual Prince that most people don't know.
A little bit of patience. I'll find the wreck of the one that didn't make it through.
Yeah, but I thought we were trying to find a way out.
Of course we are. I just need to get something from the wreck.
Okay, so finding the wreck of the one that didn't make it is something that's going to come up in the 3rd episode, but there is nothing in that wreck that would allow him to leave. There's nothing. So I still don't know where he's going with this, whether this is all just a big ruse to, like, fuck with Karl into getting what he wants, or if there is actually something there.
If you want to come with me, be here tomorrow at midnight. Horrible when it happens to kin, isn't it?
He's still my brother. I can't just leave him here.
You may not be able to trust him.
God, the manipulation just doesn't stop with Crab, does it? Karl's here, like, having threatened to fucking kill David a couple of days before, and he's literally saying to Cyrus that he doesn't want to leave without him. You gotta remember that the two of them are only half-brothers that basically don't ever see each other. Karl's being very brotherly, considering the circumstances.
David, yours was possibly the longest answer we have ever had. At 17 pages, your argument was an exhaustive one.
17 pages isn't that much to write in an hour, especially considering the size of the footprints. Also, why are they in the Senate Hall for this? This seems way too official. This is meant to just be like a school thing. Maybe all of these people are meant to be the parents of the children. I guess that would make sense.
The finest answer we have ever had was written by Karl.
Is this the real life? Or is it a fantasy? Caught in a landslide, no escape from reality. Open your eyes, look up to the skies, and see.
Absolutely genius. Obviously, when I was younger and I watched this, I didn't get that at all, but Karl wrote the lyrics to Bohemian Rhapsody. That is absolutely genius. Not just as an idea by Karl, I have to give props to the people who made this. That is a fantastic idea. It's absolutely something that Karl would do, and I love that.
Have you ever done anything in your life when you haven't cheated?
I feel like if David just told someone, like told Marion, Karl would probably be like humiliated in front of, oh, I don't know, the entirety of Waterfall City, perhaps?
I think you're still trying to blame Dad's dying at Dinotopia. And let's face it, he pretty much left us out of his life.
Don't talk about him like that.
At least you two had something in common. He didn't have the time of day for me.
See, we're getting more backstory about the two of them and their family life. Frank very clearly favored Karl over David and didn't really give him the time of day.
Well, he dumped my mother, then he did the same to yours, but you still worship him.
Don't talk like that.
See, David's really pushing too far at this point, but I think David's been pushed over the edge by Karl as well, because he's been trying to, like, do the best he can in Dinotopia, and Karl's just been dragging him down consistently. And somehow I think it's all about to boil over.
Without Dad around, I feel free. Kinda makes you think, doesn't it?
Don't say it.
I'm almost glad he's gone.
And you said it. I mean, what was he really expecting to happen? It just goes back to what they were talking about the other night. Karl very clearly loved Frank a lot. Like, he did, like, worship the man as a father. And we definitely see a lot more of that in the TV series. But David's just, like, fucking... He literally just said he's almost glad that his own father and Karl's father is dead. Like, he's... Like, what did he expect? And off they go. Jesus Christ, falls like that, it's a miracle they survived.
My dear, those two were just never suitable for a Dinotopian education.
Waldo, that's not fair. Okay, that's a very attractive angle for Marion. We've paused on a lot of attractive angles today. But that's not fair to say at all. David, since he's got here, David has done nothing but try to adapt to a Dinotopian lifestyle. It's Karl that's been fucking everything up.
My father's going to be furious.
That could be grossly understating his reaction. Well, I suppose I should go home and get my bag.
Why?
Well, you don't think I'm letting you go alone, do you?
Oh, Zippo's a good man. Although I wouldn't be too eager, Zippo, because you're about to get into some decent trouble.
Welcome to Waterfall City Central Post Office. A messenger bird 371 at your service.
And here we have the introduction of Dinotopia's postal system, the talking messenger birds.
Stay with me. We're almost there.
Would you look at that? The introduction of something that's not a T-Rex.
Do you know, I've never been so far from Waterfall City in my life.
Zippo, you need to get out more, man. You've got an entire island of incredible sights to see, and you've lived your entire life in Waterfall City? That's boring. I mean, Waterfall City is not exactly a boring place, but it becomes boring once you live there forever.
Bravo, Marion. You brought a postal bird.
I think the more accurate term would be kidnapped a postal bird.
I must remind you, there is a surcharge for delivery of messages outside Waterfall City. How can I help?
What an honourable postal bird. Even after being fucking kidnapped, he's still willing to do his job.
Hello?
Yeah, that's a bright idea, Karl. You're outside Waterfall City, presumably in carnivore territory. You've stumbled upon a creepy temple, and the first thing you can think to do is shout, "Hello!" Karl, I know you haven't seen Jurassic Park, but please tell me you've seen Indiana Jones. It is not a good idea to go in there.
His last bottle. $1,300 worth of port in one afternoon.
See, this is basically the opposite of what we've been having the entire episode. We've spent the entire episode learning about how much they hate each other, and now we're getting a little bit of... we're getting something nice, a memory the two of them have.
Don't fade on me, okay? I can't do this on my own.
Oh, he does care about him deep down. Obviously, he's not going to show it in the everyday life, but, you know, when it really comes down to it... they are brothers. I feel like they actually lost a bit of their relationship in the TV series. The TV series definitely leans more towards their banter more than any actual relationship. Now, this temple where they're at is supposed to be undiscovered. Can someone explain to me how when they have Skybax riders, that has not been discovered? Absolute lunacy, I'm telling you. Those are some big fucking crocodiles.
Someone's here.
Karl!
Over here!
I've just realised in that shot that Karl moved David to the entrance of the temple. Oh yeah, that's a clever idea. Let's move David closer to the creepy dark entrance of the mysterious jungle temple. Karl is just a long list of bad ideas made into a person.
He feels really cold.
That's because he's dead, Marion. Yeah, I got nothing. I got nothing for that. I'm sorry. Dinotopia magic. Let's move on.
This must lead to one of the entrances to the world beneath, but...
What, Zippo?
The legend has it that all the entrances are guarded by carnivores.
Zippo, if you know that all of the entrances are guarded by carnivores, why are you walking into the spooky jungle temple? This is a bad idea.
Well, don't worry. I haven't seen any carnivores lately.
Don't worry, Karl, you're about to see a fuck ton. Dear Lord above, Jesus, look how many there are. Now, I can't remember if they actually say their names during this episode, but the Dinotopians refer to these guys as being mosasaurs. And that is that is just not right. I'm sure a lot of you remember that a Mosasaurus is the thing in Jurassic World. That's not a perfect Mosasaurus replication, but it's a hell of a lot more accurate than these guys. They call them Mosasaurs, they're not Mosasaurs, they're, you know, prehistoric crocodiles, probably... I was going to say Dinosuchus, but they're far too small for that. I don't know what these are meant to be. Something prehistoric, something reasonably small, and something crocodilian. I'm guessing Dinosuchus. Bonjour! Cole's just rolling David along the bridge. Like, oh, come on, David! Oh, great, now there's one of them on the bridge. Yeah, I don't know what to call this thing. I'm just gonna call it a budget Mosasaur just for simplicity's sake, because I don't want to call it like a Dinosuchus because it's far too small for that. But yeah, here comes a budget Mosasaur to come and kill you, I guess. Oh no! Zippo's fallen into the water!
Oh no! Anyway...
Tell you what, that animation under the water was pretty decent.
He was eating me! I hope you'll choke on it!
Man's really out here insulting the Mosasaur that almost ate him. Like, come on. We'll see you later, Mosasaurs. See you in part 3. And that's it! My god, I've been recording for 4.5 hours. Well everyone, that was part 1 of the Dinotopia Miniseries. I did not anticipate that that would take as long as it did. I have literally been recording for 4 hours. That is definitely the longest video I've ever filmed. Out of the 3 parts, I'd say this one's probably in the middle. I'd say the second part is probably the worst one, and the third one is the best one. We obviously had the introduction of everything in this episode, the initial establishment of the world that we've been introduced to, and we got a decent bit of character development for Karl and David as well. Part 2 is going to be basically completely focused on both world building and specifically the development of the characters as individuals rather than with each other. So look out for that sometime soon, and I cannot imagine how long this one's going to take me to edit. If you're a Dinotopia fan looking for places to hang out with other Dinotopia fans, I actually have 3 separate places to tell you about. The first of which is the Dinotopian subreddit, which I recently started because the old one was boring and decrepit. The second is a Dinotopia Discord that I'm a moderator on and helped give a bit of a glow up to. And the third is my own personal YouTube Discord. If you want to stay up to date with everything I'm doing Dinotopian and otherwise, then go join that. All 3 links will be in the description down below. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching everyone, and I will see you on another video very, very soon. Goodbye everyone.